Surprise, bitch. I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to American Horror Stream. Hello. Look, it's not Hannah Selector. It's Mel's Bells. Everybody, this is Melanie, who will actually, I guess, do I call you just Mel's?
You can call me Mel's, and it's Melissa.
Yeah, I know. But like, I knew like 5 Melanies, and I only knew one Melissa.
So, that's okay.
I'm gonna call
You may
Mel's
call me Mel's. Yeah. You can call me Mel's.
Fair enough. And I think it was very clever of you to wait for there to be a hurricane so that Hannah wouldn't be around. That was smart thinking.
I know. The wheels are always turning up here, I tell you.
That's pretty good stuff. And in reality, what happened was Hannah is super angry about Castle Rock, and I'm not so pleased about it myself. And American Horror Story is not her favorite show, and why would we have her do a show that was not her favorite? So instead, since I have a huge American Horror Story fan here with you, Mel's, correct? Unless you were lying the whole time.
I wasn't, I promise.
We thought that since the show just started, it actually premiered the night that Castle Rock ended, that it might be a good thing to do a show about it, because I talk about it every time it comes out, and I know a lot of other people that do, and I didn't hear a lot of stuff. There weren't a lot of shows devoted to it that I could find. So why wouldn't we just do one? If you can't find something, make it yourself.
That's right.
So then here's how we're going to do it, at least for now. Since this is the first episode, we might end up changing it, but what are you going to do? We have, I guess, a ghost that sends us emails. It is another member of our squad who doesn't really have corporeal form, I guess, because she just sent a big manifesto email. So what we're going to do is first we're going to talk about essentially American Horror Story up to this point and what our feelings on it are overall, because I'm actually, Mel's, very interested in hearing what you have to say about all that. I definitely have my opinions. Then we're going to go through what the ghost sent me, and then Mel's is going to do the recap, because I'm terrible at recaps and everybody in the world is better at them than I am. And in the tradition of Superficial Gallery podcasts, she's got a notebook full of actual writing instead of stuff typed. Yeah, look at that.
Pages, my friends.
Well, the only thing different is Hannah uses lots of small notebooks and Mel's has one big one. Yeah. So tell me, Mel's, what is your overall impression of the series American Horror Story? Never mind individual seasons to this point. Right. But if somebody said, hey, I want to binge stuff, would you recommend? Like, let's say they broke their, I don't know, their pelvis or something, and they were going to be in like bed for a long time, so they had to have something super long.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it?
I would. Murder House, first season, right off the bat, was a solid. It drew me in, and so I was hooked from the beginning. And then what I personally like the most about the show is it's created in an anthology, way where they use the same characters, etc., but the stories are different, and that to me keeps it interesting. It's not a traditional show where you keep the same actual characters throughout, 8 seasons. It's the same actors, but they're playing totally different roles. I think Ryan Murphy is a genius. And so, all of those things combined is what has kept me, a solid fan for all these years.
Genius. That is high praise.
Yeah, you hear that, Ryan Murphy?
Yeah, I know. And I agree with you. You know, Murder House was it was so fresh and new when they did it. And that idea of things being all over the place and introducing what would theoretically be, you know, an entire arc for some shows, just being a one episode in and out, like the Halloween episode from the Murder House season, that kind of thing was fascinating to me. And it has been, I think it's fair to say, uneven.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's definitely people that are going to have, and we'll probably at some point do our, you know, order of the seasons from, you know, worst to best. And I think if I have one problem with the show is sometimes they get into this mode where it's almost like a 5-year-old trying to tell a story, because they're like, and so there's all these people in this house, and then there's a pig man that has a knife, and then there's a witch lady that has fire, and then, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's so many and thens that after a while you're like, I don't remember what the beginning of the story was.
That's true. That's very true. And there have definitely been some seasons where it has taken a lot for me to keep up. You know, because there were so many different storylines going along at the same time. So I think at the time that American Horror Story started, we didn't really see something like that on TV yet. So it was interesting and it was well written. The acting was phenomenal, and, you know, the directing, everything. So yes, they tend to get into the weeds, I think, personally, on some of the seasons, and you have to, I don't want to say you have to put deep concentration on it, because it's not that, you know, it's not that heavy, but sometimes it can get trippy when you're trying to connect, like, okay, so this happened 3 episodes ago, but now it's this totally different thing. And so, you know, I think it can get caught in the weeds, but there really hasn't been a season that, well, first of all, that I haven't watched. And
Same with me. I'm still going to watch it.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, even if it was one that I left, you know, thinking, I don't know much about how I feel about that, it's not going to stop me from watching it. So yeah. And I'm sure we will get into ranking the seasons, because I like to do that.
Now, by the way, there are someone in the chat already, and if you're listening to this on iTunes, we're doing the show live on YouTube, and we're going to do it every Friday night, and we'll confirm the time, but it's probably going to be around 10 o'clock Eastern time on Friday nights. And if it wavers, you know, there'll be plenty of places for you to check. But then it's going to go out into the podcast feed. But if you come to the live show, then there's a chat going. And the first person in the chat asked if it was too late to submit feedback for Castle Rock. So, hey, the answer is no, castlerockhistorical@gmail.com. And yay, because at least someone knew that something was going on, because it's always tough to start out with a new show.
Yeah.
So now I think I agree with everything you said about the way the show has gone. I'm going to start out, and I had a big problem with a lack of Frances Conroy in Castle Rock. I have no lack of Frances Conroy in American Horror Story.
That's right.
So her, coupled with my scrawny goddess Emma Roberts, the ravishing Montgomery,
goddess Roberts. That's what we'll call her.
But you got to throw scrawny in there too, because she is like a little piece of gristle, but in the best possible way. So that immediately made me happy when I found out she was in it, because I think I loved my favorite season, just FYI, was Coven.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, it was my favorite season. And then I was so sad because Freak Show was such a bummer. Like, that was the one where I don't understand anymore, and I don't feel like going back to trying to figure it out. So but we can't do the countdown. We can't give everybody the countdown now. We got to save it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So I'm going to start out with what the ghost sent.
Yes.
Because it's kind of funny. She did a character breakdown, and I think that that's actually kind of handy for us. So I'm going to give what she said, and she had a couple little points in there and everything like that. I'm not going to read it like word for word because then the show would be over because it's super detailed. But I think what I will do, maybe Mel's, is that we'll put it in the post that we're going to put on superficialgallery.com so that people can read all the stuff that's in there because we'll go on there anyway. All right. So then Wilhelmina Venable, that's Sarah Paulson. She runs out post 3. She has a potentially romantic relationship with Miriam Mead, played by Kathy Bates. And I mean, she's referencing some stuff that's going to come up in the recap, but we know that there's a weird power play going on between them, and especially with one particular fake radiation person, and that whole madness. And also, the ghost goes out of her way to point out that obviously Cordelia, the Supreme, and Billie Dean Howard, the reporter, survived the apocalypse because they're both going to be in the show and played by Sarah Paulson. So, well on that. And Miriam Mead, played by Kathy Bates, has the best haircut that she has had since.
Yeah, I have some comments about her look in this too. Yeah.
Severe. And some of the questions that the ghost wants answered is, how did she end up helping run this outpost? What kind of shit did she do for the military before this to get here? Why does she want to play dress up? And the fun part, and I'm going to save it till the end when it comes up in the recap, but there's one part about her that is kind of truly frightening, and I thought it was great, and the ghost pointed it out as well. Then we go to Mr. Is it Gallant? It's got to be.
My southern accent calls him gallant, but we'll go with gallant.
Gallant. The whiny and dramatic hairdresser who I already love because Evan Peters. And his perfect grandmother, Evie Joan Collins, she seems to be around for comic relief, at least at this point.
Yeah.
They didn't do a ton with her. And he's also supposed to be Tate Langdon.
Yes. Oh, Tate.
Yeah.
One of my crushes.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people fell in love with the entire show because of Tate and his weird rubber suit and his other mess. And he has an incredibly important role in this, in addition to everything else, because of our little guest at the end, who you actually heard in the opening, if you heard the opening theme. Is Dinah Stevens, who seems to be Oprah, and we don't really know anything about her yet. Mallory, played by Billie Lourd. She plays the personal assistant to Coco St. Pierre Vanderbilt, and she wanted her to drink cold pressed juice, which I thought was in style a while ago, which was a weird, I don't know what they're doing with time.
Pin that.
Yeah. Okay. So then there's Coco St. Pierre Vanderbilt. She's very hateable, and the ghost says, why does Leslie Grossman always play characters that I hate? I guess because she's good at it. And she paid $100 million to get to the outpost, and left poor Billy Eichner, her husband, to die in Santa Monica in what was the most stereotypical scene ever.
Well, this was very reminiscent of their relationship from Colt.
Yeah, that is very true.
So, it was true fashion on that.
That is true. Then Timothy Campbell. The ghost said, first off, who is this actor? I don't know, but he's hot, so I hope he doesn't die. And I hope he's at least like 20 years old. And he gets accepted into UCLA and is happy for about 30 seconds. That also, the last one is Emily, also chosen to go to the outpost. She got snatched up quickly. She was already in jail for protesting, parentheses, where my feminists at. And she's very anxious to see what happens between her and Timothy. And then I'm going to save her last piece for the end of the recap, because that's the big reveal sort of at the end of the episode.
Okay.
So, what is cooking with episode 1 of Apocalypse there, Mel's?
Well, first off, we know that this season is going to be the coveted, anticipated crossover between Murder House and Coven. Two of obviously the best seasons that they have put out. So this is exciting. So we start off the bat in a upscale, LA trendy hair salon. We have Mr. Gallant, I guess, which is Evan Peters, and he is cutting and styling our whiny, bitchy billionaire that wants to be a social media influencer, Coco. Coco is complaining about, needing followers on Instagram, likes, et cetera, et cetera. Her assistant Mallory comes in and has her drink this, trendy cold press, drink for, likes on YouTube, on Instagram. And then she's like, this is shit. I need a frappe to get this taste out of my mouth. So immediately we're set with these characters right off the bat, with building the characters as she's going to be whiny and she's going to be annoying through I don't know if she makes it to the whole season, but her time on the season is going to be annoying. And yeah.
Flipping with this show, usually whatever they get painted as in the beginning is kind of what they ride through the whole thing. And that, I feel like it became more and more like that as the series went on. Sometimes there's reveals as far as, this person was bad when you thought they were good or something like that, but they kind of tell you who they are right from the beginning mostly, and especially the assistant. And in a way, like you said, Mr. Gallant, they kind of set up who they were right in that one scene. It took 2 minutes.
Yeah, literally.
And we knew her.
Yeah. And then we see Winter from last season. She is in the season as well. And she is the poor, mistreated assistant to Coco, the social media influencer. As they're sitting there talking, everyone's phones start going off, and there is a missile alert that, LA is fixing to get hit, probably about an hour off, from destruction, nuclear. Of course, Coco is like, it's, this is like Hawaii. They're going to cancel it. This is her typical fashion. But of course, everyone else is concerned because, we don't take things like that just lightly. So she then gets the call from her dad, who tells her that her mother, her brother, and he are in Hong Kong, and they are not going to make it. And they have 4 seats on a private jet that will take them somewhere safe. And then they all explode on the phone. So that was funny to me, because she was kind of like, hello, yeah, I think your dad just got creamed by a nuclear missile, but gotcha. So the private jet is in Santa Monica. Now, I'm not very familiar with California, so anyone can help me out with this. I don't know how far Santa Monica is from LA, or if it's part of it. I'm sorry for the ignorance. I'm just not that good with a map. So, Oh, I'm there. Okay. I have to assume it can't be far, because Brock.
It's 15 miles.
15?
It's 15 miles, but even now, which we're doing this we're at 10:38, so it's 7:38. to go those 15 miles right now in that traffic would be 42 minutes. So, and that's at 7:38 p.m. on a Friday night when there's not a missile coming. So
exactly. So yeah, that okay. So she then calls her husband, partner, who is Billy Eichner. He is named Brock. Of course, he is also whiny and bitchy. And I don't know if we're going to see him again this season, but he is off the bat, complaining about a 6-episode miniseries of Free Willy, which I would watch. So I don't know why somebody doesn't just go with that. She's telling him about the phone call. She's telling him that missiles are coming. It's real. He needs to get to the Santa Monica airport. The one thing is when the news anchor came on with that broadcast, for me it was chilling because it was really well done. But and y'all are going to have to forgive me because I am one of those people where I write things down that I see happening multiple times, which this could be inconsequential later on. But the newscaster makes a statement, I can't believe we actually did it. So that immediately off the top of my head, I'm like, so is this something the U.S. caused, or
we as humanity?
As humanity, exactly. Because later in the episode, when you see the newscast again, it's repeating that same line. So cue in Jackie Collins, who I grew up in the Deep South, and we watched Dynasty, and so she's a treasure to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you watched Dynasty, but I will tell you.
It was fun when I was in the house, but I wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Well, I had, a grandmother that was just like, that was her lifestyle pretty much, or she thought at least. So Dynasty was a big thing.
Joan Collins, she's 85 years old.
I know, and she's like the epitome of perfection. So let's give it up for her. I like it because I feel like, well, obviously throughout this episode, as we'll talk about, and you saw, she's been used as a comic relief, I think. She's always got a witty response, and she's quite frankly, I don't give a shit about anything. So
yeah, she's just super happy to even
to be alive, I guess.
Everyone else is dead.
What I liked, though, will tell you, there was a little hidden, I don't know if it would be an Easter egg, but a a throwback to this one episode of Dynasty where she gets into it with another character because the character told her that her champagne was burnt.
Oh, is that what she kept saying that?
Yes. And yeah, I had a good giggle over it because I actually remembered it. And so that's why she kept saying, you left it in the freezer too long. It's burnt champagne. Because basically on Dynasty, it was the opposite. She would have been, the maid at the house who was getting bitched out about the burnt wine. So she is rich Grandma Evie. We find out that she is the grandmother of Mr. Gallant. I don't know why we don't have a first name for him yet. I just feel weird calling him that. In my notes, I kept saying Evan Peters, but I mean, I'm going to be correct on this and I'm going to call him his real name. And he's like, Grandma, we got to get out of here. The missile attacks are real. Another comic, relief from her. She's just like, oh, well, we at least need to take the good champagne, So we then cut to Coco and Mallory in the car that the dad said was coming to pick her up to take her to the airport. Right. Mallory is concerned about her own family and the fate of her family. She can't reach her mother. She tries to get out of the vehicle and go to spend time with her mom. And Coco somehow convinces her to stay by simply telling her that she is worse than Elton John. I don't know what that means.
I don't know. It was funny.
I gotta do some deep dives on this because I'm like, can Elton John not load a dishwasher? These are the things that I need to learn. So, and she stays, and then of course we get the big, where we start seeing the chaos really start to ensue, and that's when people are jumping to their deaths, committing suicide to avoid the nuclear, bomb that's coming to hit. One hits the vehicle, and so they start to speed off and just, hurriedly get to the airport for Coco and possibly Brock and Mallory to escape. There are 4 spots on there. So
I liked how the guy that was driving him was just totally happy shooting everybody.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean that's what I was about to get to.
He didn't have anywhere else to go. What? You know what I mean?
I just drove you through all this madness. Someone landed on my hood and killed themselves. But don't worry, I won't take that extra spot on the plane. I will just sacrifice myself for you.
These poor other guys, these fucking baggage handlers that weren't doing anything wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just bizarre.
They all just wanted to ride.
Yeah.
During that time, though, is when Mr. Gallant shows up with Grandma Evie, and he's like, I know you have 2 spots on that plane, and we are going. She is on the phone with Brock, and she subsequently pulls out their contractual agreement for their marriage, and she says, I hereby release you, and you are now free to see other people. So I find that hilarious because he's obviously, going to die. So then we get the shots of Brock kind of running through the city because he was going to try to run to the airport. A lot of crazy things going on. I mean, people stabbing other people, looting, riots. I mean, everyone's scared. What you would think would be a typical reaction in an apocalypse. I did hone in and rewind and watch and think it was funny that a baker threw a knife in a kid's back who was stealing loaves of bread from his shop. Put a pin in that because something is said later in the episode that I think is a call to that, and I find it funny. So then we get a plane shot. Everybody's, on the plane, and someone asks, well, where are we going? Like, what's going on? And she says, Coco says, I don't know. And Mallory's like, your dad didn't tell you? No. So she's like, well, let's see who's flying this plane. The plane is flying itself.
Yeah.
Just, okay, whatever. I don't have a theory for that yet. Do you have thoughts on that?
It doesn't make any sense. Well, there's a couple... and you have to do it with every TV show, but you have to do it with AHS a lot. There's no place on the planet that it would take an hour for an ICBM to get anywhere, literally anywhere else on the planet. Like, unless they strapped it to a duck and the duck was the one that was flying it, that's not how any of it works.
Exactly.
So when it goes off and the plane like tilts to the side and then they open the door and they see there's flying a plane on autopilot is simple.
Right.
Landing it and taking off, not so much.
Right.
So maybe they're trying to say, that the sophistication behind the cooperative is so advanced that you can have a robot plane. You know what I mean? That's the thing I can think of.
True.
Because the rest is just nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, this thought even crossed my mind, and then I said to myself, I don't think they'd go this far, but I was like, is there a ghost flying this plane? I mean, I was like, that, I don't know. I hope something comes back to that, though, because I don't want them to just leave that as, an open-ended, like, well, the plane was just flying itself. Wow. Those are little things that I will obsess over. I did have that in capital letters. No one is piloting this plane.
No, the ghost. You answered it.
Yeah. Of course, we get some more Grandma Evie comic relief. No stewardess. I won't be ordering the dry fruit cup, which is like, okay, Grandma. Then we get the blast that hit LA, and they watch it out of the plane window. The plane does have turbulence and everything like that. Obviously, I haven't lived through a nuclear bomb or anything of the sort, but I guess if you're just not in that central area, it doesn't affect you. So the plane was far enough away that it didn't get, affected by that blast.
To the best of my knowledge, which is completely from obsessing on History Channel.
Yes. Yeah.
There's the initial blast portion of it is big, but it's not so big that it's going to, go up that far into the sky or anything like that.
I gotcha.
At the end of the day, it's still just a really big bomb.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and when you see the mushroom cloud, wherever you are, where you can see it from, you're far enough away where it's not going to get you. Now, eventually it's going to get you because of the radiation and everything like that. But in the initial thing, unless you're within there's like 3 different radii, like there's the blast one and there's the shockwave one and everything like that. I think they seem far enough away.
Yeah. To backtrack just a bit, I did think it was funny because that all of a sudden Brock did see the plane flying away. I mean, yeah, I was like, yeah, okay,
He's like,
that
you
could have been
bitch.
her. Yeah, don't leave me, you bitch. I love Billy Eichner personally, and anything that he does is just brightens my day. So, they all watch LA go up in flames. And now we cut to our opening credits. Do you want to go into a dive about the opening credits? Because what I like to do with each season is just take note of how they put their opening credits together, because it'll give you a piece of information as to, or foreshadowing on how the show is going to go. And what I noticed is it was a pretty good mashup of season 1 credits and season 3 credits. We got a lot of the creepy baby demonic photos that we got in season 1, presumably from that doctor and the things he did. All of those pictures were in the basement. And then we did get a lot of snakes, which is a Coven staple, and we got a couple of these weird creatures that I think also we had in season 3. Now they did that, huh?
My favorite thing in any of the ever history of the show things in the title sequence was in this title sequence, and it was the thing that I had on before the show started. It's that weird demon skeleton guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best.
Yeah, and I already have some thoughts on him. So, I thought it was cool because then they did an overlay of what an apocalyptic, world would look like if you are at the end of life, explosions and then a lot of devil imagery and things like that. So what we have next, which ironically enough, I thought it was ironic. They show the typical nuclear family, which I couldn't do anything but giggle at because I was like, oh, okay, I get you, okay. Okay, I see what you're doing. It is such like what you imagine the picket fence life would be for a family. A mom's at home with her 2 sons. They're handsome, she's beautiful, and he's like on a countdown till 3 p.m. to see if he gets into UCLA. They're wondering where the dad's at. He's not home yet. And then he obviously gets into UCLA, and it's just all of this cheering, and we knew you could do it, and you're a great son. And then dad busts in and pretty much rocked their world and turned all of that upside down. They did get the missile text. So I'm assuming this obviously happened before missile text, because then they got the missile text and they were like, what is this? In comes to dad. He's like, you haven't been watching the news. That's where we get the broadcast again. And it's just the part where the anchor says, I can't believe we actually did it. So I'm just curious to know who we are. And it could be a total red herring, but
Jamie-O in the chat said, "Good catch there, Mel."
thank you. Thank you. Details. I can't see the chat. Is that normal?
It's because you're looking at me, you poor bastard. And it's got to be in the actual on the YouTube page. So
Okay, that's okay.
Don't worry.
Well, okay.
We're doing the important stuff right now. So
yeah, thank you, Acadia. So, all right. Family is very upset. They don't know what to do. They have nowhere to go. Of course, something like this is obviously never crossed anyone's mind, as it probably wouldn't, because, well, before our times now. Growing up, I never thought about it. Let's put it that way. So, all of a sudden, armored Hummer pulls up. These, to me, it look like SHIELD agents from the Marvel universe. So they bust in and they're, like, we've got to take Timothy Campbell with us. The dad wants to know why, what's going on. He has apparently got super DNA, not dino DNA, but super DNA. And he's got strong genetics that are positioned for survival. So basically, he's a DNA gem is what I'm calling him.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go on a conspiracy tangent. I'm warning you right now. He said, how do you know this? And they say you submitted your DNA to an ancestry website. People do not do this, okay? I'm a conspiracy theorist, and I am not swapping myself and sending it in the mail to anyone, okay? This is what happens. And we don't know. Huh?
That's how they get you.
See? And we don't know if it's going to be good or bad for Timothy. So
no, we don't. And if I did it, people would show up in a armored Hummer and say, "There's not an apocalypse, but we have to kill you right away." So I'm never doing it.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be on that favored list either. They'd be like, this couch potato's got to go. So she's not going to be any help to society after the nuclear winter. So, of course, he's upset. He doesn't want to leave his family, but his dad tells him to go. This is his chance for survival. So, everyone is sad. And then he drives off in the Hummer and watches his, poor family and his nuclear perfect life disappearing in the back of a window, as the cliche would say. Next scene we get is where they are taking Timothy to what I presume is an underground bunker. He's asking where he's at. They tell him, don't worry about it. It's none of your business. You'll know when you need to know, type thing. And they throw him in. Yeah, don't worry about it. You're safe down here, and that's all you need to know. So they throw him in a cage. I'm not going to get started on cages because this is not the right part. This is not the right video chat for that. So they throw a kid in a cage. What's going on here? So he finds out that he's not the only one in the cage. There is a girl named Emily in there as well. They strike up a conversation. He asks her, how did they get you? Was it because of your DNA? She says, I don't know. They pulled me from jail for protesting, like our ghost told us earlier. And he said, well, it must be your doctor's records or something that they were able to get access to. Now, I'm putting a pin in this also because we don't really explicably find out what it is about Emily that put her in that cage. And I've always got this kind of mindset of where the small things, even though they might seem like, okay, well, obviously they found her DNA some way and did this. But I just like to leave these things open-ended because we know that this show takes surprising twists and turns. So,
Very true.
I got some thoughts on her, but I don't want to believe them yet. So we'll keep that for later. The explosion happens, sirens go off, and then we cut to 2 weeks later. They are then transported to pod, or well, it's not called a pod, outpost, excuse me, outpost number 3. Now, I don't know, Acadia, if you've watched The Handmaid's Tale.
No, Mrs. Ack loves it. I did not watch it at all.
Okay. Well, I'm a huge fan. And this whole scene and and the makeup of what they're doing on the inside of this outpost was very Handmaid's Tale to me. In the Handmaid's Tale, I believe it's called The Wastelands, but it could be something else. That's where they send the girls that cause trouble, handmaids that cause trouble, etc. And they're basically shoveling around toxic waste that has happened in the society since the governmental takeover or whatever. It reminded me of that so much with all of the smoke and the color choice for the shot and everything. So first thing that came to mind for me, I was like, whoa, this is very Handmaid's Tale, which is also an apocalyptic story. So
fair enough. I am going to say I don't necessarily think that the nuclear apocalypse would make it super foggy, which it seemed to be what their deal was. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, look how foggy it is.
Yeah.
It must be the apocalypse. I think there's definitely ash and that kind of thing. I just didn't know. Maybe, I mean, the fog is neat, but.
Yeah, but it doesn't really add up. I thought the same thing.
Dystopia handbook right down to workers having to wear gray. Oh.
Exactly. So Wilhelmina, let me refer to her as the rule number 1 I just broke, so I'd be out there getting shot. So they are bringing them in there. I am calling Timothy and Emily mutants, and that's because of my love for X-Files. I mean, X-Men, and I'm calling them that because of their genetic disposition.
I see.
So.
All right.
They're taking the mutants there. So, we do see 2 Greys get shot because they broke a rule. We don't yet know what that rule is, but you kind of get the gist of what they're going into when they get into this outpost. Obviously, it's not good. So, and that was Kathy Bates that was leading them in. I wrote here in all capitals, you'll always follow Kathy Bates everywhere she goes. So they were taken in, decontaminated. All capitals here. Sarah Paulson makes her entrance, which she always makes a tremendously wonderful entrance, in my opinion, into these shows. She is Wilhelmina Venable. This is Outpost number 3.
Outpost number 3.
Outpost number 3. And upon being questioned about the fallout shelter being so, ornate and, doesn't seem like what you would envision a fallout shelter after a nuclear apocalypse would be, she says that it was once a all-boys school. So something is coming into my mind about Coven, but I'm gonna have to brush up on Coven on that. she tells them this is the first time we hear about the cooperative. She tells them that they built this and renovated once they realized what was coming. So once they realized what was coming, they had knowledge of this nuclear apocalypse that was going to happen. So in my mind, that took me back to when the newscaster said, "I can't believe we did it."
There's a lot of payroll. You can't have people waiting around in SUVs on like 3 shifts a day just in case there's going to be an apocalypse so that you can drive and get the guy in his house and then make sure that the pilot's just sitting there in the plane waiting to take, you know what I mean? Like that's a lot of overhead for this operation.
Hey, you know what? I have to say, we'll get to this. When we're introduced to the characters that we're dealing with in Outpost number 3, I have some thoughts about, because there's 2 ways to get into that outpost. Either you're a genetic mutant, that's what I'm calling them, or you are a billionaire and you paid $1 million a ticket.
100 million.
100 million. You're right. $100 million a ticket to get in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that are in there, I mean, we know about Coco, obviously, and I do believe that Grandma Evie has the money, and therefore her grandson would be in tow. But there are some others that I had some questions on.
The overhead. They were like, "Hey, you got to pay us 100 million in advance for a ticket, so that we can then pay somebody to sit in a fucking car and wait for you."
That's true. You're right. She did make mention, though, Miss Venable, that the cooperative are made up of a dozen of the greatest minds, and that they financed for all of this to be readily available once the nuclear war went down or whatever. Something I thought was cool, the Emily, she said, because Miss Venable said when they realized what was coming, and I think it was one of the mutants, they said the end, and she said no, the beginning. So I like this. But what?
Someone in the chat asked me about the bottle, and the bottle has a name on it.
Acadia, I like it. So that's when they say the cooperatives are made up of a dozen of the greatest minds, and then there's a select few that are called visionaries. I liked Timothy Mutant's joke about if they're the greatest minds, why don't they have generators? And she went on with a speech that I could say would be real life. Technology killed the world. Social media made people think they were equal. And so then she goes into, now the natural order must restore itself, which
he's not wrong. I mean, technology does make, look at Twitter for 2 minutes, and as long as you got 10 assholes that will like your tweet, it doesn't matter what you say, because you feel like then you have a group that's on your side. You know what I mean? So that part of it is good because it's allowing other people to have a voice, and part of it is bad because there was a reason why we were made a republic and not a democracy.
Yes, agreed, 100%. And I don't disagree with what she said at all, because I do think that social media is going to cause, if it's not already started and in the midst of causing some type of, breakdown in our society. So I just liked her thoughts on everyone thought they were equal. So back to a very much like we are a tiered society type thing, not everybody is equal, which we'll learn is also how they operate in the house. So our 2 teenage mutants are purples. They get a private furnished suite. They are purples. They are called the elite, and it is because they were chosen to survive. So these people in purple were chosen to survive. Now, we'll get to the characters later. Some of them weren't chosen by genetics. That's why I'm like, okay. So, but you really either paid your way on there, or we only have 2 people in here that was genetically chosen. So, those are the worthy ones, the elite, chosen to survive. You will see the grays. They are the worker ants, but still a necessity in society. So again, the breakdown of the colors and what their job functions are, or their roles in this, outpost, is very Handmaid's Tale-ish to me as well.
I don't know why they can get robots to fucking take a plane into the air and land it, but they can't get one that can make a fucking macaroni and cheese. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Oh gosh, yeah. So yeah. And she tells them that she is that she's a strong right arm of the cooperative. Think of her as the face, because I think she got a little miffed when Emily said, "So you're not a purple." So she got a little taut after that.
Mm-hmm.
She gave them their rules. 1, don't call her anything but Miss Venable. Okay. 2, you can never leave. If you leave, you will be contaminated, and then there are, serious consequences to that. Now, I made a super note here about canker pus monsters.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Being out there, and that is what you will become, or what will take you if you go outside of the outpost. We'll come back to that at the end.
She said it in such an offhand way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was great. And I don't understand why they thought people wanted to run out into the radioactive fog anyhow.
I mean, I'm not going out there. Okay, I'm not trying to, be a.
I saw an apple tree on the way in. Let's go get some of those delicious radioactive apples.
Yeah, I ain't trying to catch no radiation and nothing like that. I will keep those canker sores away from me. Mm-hmm. Rule number 3: none unauthorized copulation. No exceptions. So what we find out then is that's what the 2 grays were being executed for in the beginning. Apparently they had unauthorized copulations, and they were executed, shot execution style.
How do you get that shit authorized? What form do you have to fill out?
And this is where I'm kind of starting to think, what is in the genetics of the 2 that they're going to possibly, they might try to use them as breeding types to repopulate the world. I don't know about that yet, but there's something that they don't want, like let's say the millionaires that are there, they're not interested in their copulating. But it might be something that's reserved for a purple that was genetically chosen. I don't know. Hopefully we get more into that, because I think next episode is going to be really good. So this is where I got the bone chills, is when Timothy Mutant was taking a shower.
Yep.
He got out, he toweled off, he went over to the mirror. It was foggy, except it had a 666 written in the fog on the mirror. And all of a sudden you hear a whisper, "Beware, Timothy." I'm probably reaching here, but I listened to it like 4 times. And to me, it sounded like Jessica Lange, and it sounded like her character that was in Murder House 1. Now, I don't know, or, season 1 Murder House. I don't know if that is accurate. I don't know who it is that would be whispering. I don't think it's anybody that's in this current world that we're looking at. I think it's someone connected to one of the other seasons. So either it's a witch or it's somebody in that murder house. And
this was not on purpose. I'd love to say it was on purpose, but if anybody heard the theme song for our little show here, which I guess I could just play again, but see if you hear the 2 people I will play it. See if you can hear the 2 whispers that are in it.
seen the last of me.
Yeah.
We had Jessica Lange whispering.
Yeah.
And
No.
her whispering, what am I going to do with you?
Exactly.
So I totally planned it. Planned it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge Lang fan anyway, but for me, that was my immediate. I was like, okay, that's got to be Jessica Lange. Now, I know that she's not going to be reprising a role as a regular this season. I think she's only going to be in maybe one episode, and she's not going to be her Coven character. She is going to be her
Murder House.
So Constance Langdon, I think is her name. That's who she's going to be reprising as in one scene or one episode, excuse me. Okay, so here we go with Cocktail Hour and the annoying song. I can see where they were being driven mad. So we meet our other players in this game, as I like to call them. We have Andre and Stu, a fabulous couple that I suppose can afford $200 million to be on be in here. They never mention that they're genetically, mutants. We obviously have Grandma Evie and her grandson, Mr. I forget his name already, Gallant, yeah. We have Coco and we have Dinah Stevens, which is played by one of my favorite actresses. I've loved pretty much everything that she's done on the shows. She's been in, I know she was in Cult. Was she in anything before that? Because I feel like she was.
I don't remember.
But I can't remember right now. Anyway, I just love that actress a lot. Timothy recognizes her off the bat and he's like, oh, my mom loved you. She thought you were going to be the next Oprah. I loved her comment back where she was like, well, a million more of hers and I wouldn't have been replaced by a Telenova.
Yep.
So she is a washed up talk show host or possibly more motivational speaker or something like that, as we learn later in the episode. So dinner is an ice cube. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like an ice cube with Kool-Aid at the bottom of it. I assume that it's like a marshmallow or something like that. I'd like to know the consistency of it. Immediately, I was intrigued by that. And of course, our mutant newcomers were like, what is this? And Dinah is so nice to explain to them that in this cube is every nutrition that our body needs, or so they tell us. So apparently they've learned a way to make their nutrition into marshmallows and, pack it up with a bunch of nutrients. I'm personally not buying it. I don't think that it's got anything in it at all. But we'll probably learn more about that. So, of course, like I called from the beginning, Coco is complaining about her food. She's hungry, and then she tries to have some type of revolution about, banning and disrupting because she only gets an ice cube for dinner. This comes my favorite part. Well, I do like how she mentioned all of these millionaires, bought all these tickets to be here, and we can't even get any pirates booty in here, which I thought was hilarious. But she gets a bitch slap. She gets put in her place by Miss Venable. I wrote, thank you, Queen. Now, I am a Sarah Paulson, I want to say apologist, but I don't think there's anything to apologize for, because anything that she does, even as our two-headed, conjoined twins in Freak Show, I love everything that she does. So she tells her we've got 18 months worth of nutrition, so they have to be prepared, and they have to be, vigilant in taking what they're getting, and that being it. So.
Also in the chat, Damiao said that the Oprah character, she had a very big part in Roanoke. I forgot.
She did.
Forgetting that Roanoke was even in it.
Well, I had my feelings on Roanoke. I watched it, and you're right. She was in Roanoke. I knew I remembered her from something else. I just couldn't place the season. So thank you so much, Danielle. Um, so then we have one of the guards, one of the I don't know what you would call them. I don't really know what. Okay, I'm going to refer to Kathy Bates as Boo because if you watch Orange is the New Black, she is straight up modeled after Boo. Do you
Right?
watch Orange is the New Black?
No.
Okay, well, she looks just
Basically,
like
you
Boo.
just watch all the shows that that my wife watches and
Well,
none
yeah.
that I watch.
Well, Boo, she's got a Boo vibe going on, and somebody can confirm this in the chat if you feel this is true. But so one of the other guards, I'm going to assume that's the role, came over and told Boo something, and then she informs Miss Venable that there has been a breach. Something has penetrated the, outpost, the facility. It was a carrier pigeon. And then we get Coco asking if they can eat the pigeon. Now, this is going to get old really fast for me, okay? Because her character last season got old really quick, and this is going to be annoying to me. I can already tell you. Of course, Kathy Bates gives her the "you are an idiot and a dumbass," and she has to tell her it was contaminated. You cannot eat the contaminated pigeon. I wrote down word for word what this note from the co-op read.
Okay.
No more governments, only rotting mounds of corpses, too many to bury. Starving people, kill for a piece of bread. This is where I went to the recall of that baker stabbing that guy because he was stealing all of that bread. I mean, it's probably not even meant to be that, but I thought it was funny. 3 outposts have been overtaken. So we are starting with 10. We are now down 3. Okay.
All
We are the last vestiges of civilized life on the planet. Be vigilant. So, what we've gathered from that note from the cooperation or the co op is that these planned outposts that they thought were going to be a good idea are starting to become like run by the inmates, like the insane asylum is being run by the patients probably, and we see probably why later on when we realize how Miss Venable is running her outpost. So it could be understandable how it could easily be taken over like that. So be vigilant, and then comes the I shouldn't have been giggling at all of this, but I was. We have a radioactive alert. Somebody has been outside of these walls.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes Boo. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna get her real name down soon, but for right now, she's Boo. Here comes Boo with the radiation monitor.
Tiger counter.
Yeah. And she's going over every person, of course, giving this super intimidating, super creepy speech about, I can't believe the audacity of someone that would leave the perimeter and put all of you in danger like this. This is what happens when you're exposed to radiation. Your flesh falls off your body. The whole it's scare tactic, which obviously, and it works. So she's scanning everyone, and the radiation machine. You called it the proper term, just to, okay.
Her name is Miriam.
Goes off on Mr. Gallant, and then it goes off on Stu.
Yep.
Poor Stu. I actually wrote poor Andre here because he was more upset than Stu was about this. Now, they are taken into a decontamination room. This is the first episode of the season, and this is to hook all the females I know because I am one of them. We get a shot of Evan Peters' ass, and everybody's waiting for that shot. It's kind of like the kid in Castle Rock. Everybody's waiting to see it, so we get it. They are scrubbing their skin raw, which gave me the creeps because I thought that's really painful.
Why didn't they just put them in the thing that they were in when they first came in?
Okay, and this is why I'm going to give some thoughts at the end. I don't believe, obviously, for reasons we've all seen the episode, I don't believe that what is going on is what is going on. You know, that should be a given with these series anyway. But all they did was a poof on them to decontaminate them in the suits, and now they're rubbing them and scrubbing them raw and, you know, scanning them nude and just basically, you know, humiliating them.
Yep.
Oh, I can't get past this Evan Peters ass shot. Okay, so the Geiger meter?
Geiger counter.
Geiger counter. Okay, I'm gonna get it. Okay, the Geiger counter clears Mr. Gallant, and then it does go off the charts on poor Stu. And he's pleading his case. He didn't go outside of the walls, which he didn't. We all know he didn't. He didn't do anything wrong. There has to be a mistake. Please don't water hose me again, you know. And she says, don't worry, you're not going to have to. And then it's a clear, you know, shot to the head execution style, which seems to be the way that they like to kill people in this outpost. So Mr. Gallant gets to watch Stu be murdered, which I have to assume is traumatic and relieving at the same time. So, is there anything in the chat?
Yeah, Jackie Torrance said, if there's two things in this world I love, it's Evan Peters' ass and Bill Skarsgård's ass. VHS has me for the rest of the season, just like that. And I replied, I just wanted to see old Francis Conroy in a goddamn fight. And I couldn't get that, and you guys are getting asked right and left.
I mean, it's time for women. Hello?
I know, I'm just saying.
Okay, you're going to get your Francis Conroy, and you're going to get your scrawny goddess. So never mind you right now, okay? So Venable and Bates meet after all of this goes down, which, you know, it's creepy to begin with because Miss Venable is checking herself out in the mirror in her period clothing, you know, colonial clothing, and I assume what's going through her mind is, I'm a bombshell, you know, in this Victorian outfit.
That's all purple.
This purple outfit. Boo knocks on the door, asks her if she's decent. She tells her to come in, and she says decent enough, which that starts to give me the flags of there being a little bit more of a elite and like law enforcement type relationship between these two, obviously. She tells her we're the only ones that matter when Boo says, what do you think the co-op would think of this? Then that's when it's revealed that they are just messing with everyone in there. She said, how did you pull that off? And Kathy Bates tells her that it was easy. She just turned the sensitivity up and to a 10, and it would make somebody, you know, go off like they were in Chernobyl or whatever. So really messed up. Poor Stu. Poor Andre. They have a good laugh and a good giggle over that. I did skip something that I also thought was funny is once Kathy Bates took off her cloak, she also had on purple period clothing and had a nice laugh over it in the mirror. So I'm sure they're laughing at, you know, she thinks she looks, you know, ridiculous or whatever. Let's see. This did kind of gross me out. I'm sorry that Venable says, I must say that gave me a tingle. I was like, ugh. Because that noise that that machine makes, I don't know how it could give
Look at
anybody
this!
a
That's not
tingle.
easy.
So
Although it does kind of reinforce the fact that she's a sadistic monster, I guess.
yes, which turns out to be her pattern in most of these seasons, especially
Yeah.
at Coven. So Kathy Bates then kind of goes, straight talk with her. She says, what would the co-op think about us, having this type of relationship here, us messing with terrorizing the guests and killing them and, not feeding them properly, all of these things. That's when Venable says, well, we're the only ones that matter. And she tells her that basically fuck the co-op because, it's just the two of them now. Now, Kathy Bates, she seems to have a moral compass, even though she likes to kill people. It's in her DNA, she says.
Mhm.
But the co-op has paid her bills for years. Okay, so another thing, obviously, this has been in the works for years, and for years they've known that this nuclear war was happening. Who
Mhm.
they are, we don't know yet. Um, Again, I wrote poor Andre. Coco makes an offhanded remark, as usual. That's her repertoire. And I wrote, they fried green tomatoed his ass in this next sequence, which I think is hilarious. Um,
What does that mean?
have you never seen fried green tomatoes?
No, I'm not a woman.
You don't have to be a woman to see classic movies. My
I
gosh.
think you do.
Okay, so in Fried Green Tomatoes, basically spoiler warning for anyone who has not watched that movie, but you plan on it. You might want to cover your ears. They have to cover up a murder. These two friends in this town, and they chop him up and make him into barbecue because they own a little cafe called the Whistle Stop.
I thought
And
that movie was about feelings and shit. Like
it was.
ladies talking to each other.
Oh yeah, because Kathy Bates, ironically, was in that as well. She was selling Mary Kay.
I didn't
And
know there was murders.
yeah, and so, but the Miss Idgy, or whatever she went by in the nursing home, which we found out she was Idgy, was telling her story the whole time. But yeah, so they had to. I think his name
Maybe
was
I'll yell
Frank.
out Tawanda, which I assume means something to you.
Yeah, Tawanda. Face it, ladies, I'm older and have more insurance. So anyway, they fried green tomatoed his ass because they basically, made him dinner, which is what they did in Fried Green Tomatoes to get rid of Frank's body. Everyone was going crazy over the stew and the barbecue at that time, and this was the famous line, "Secrets in the sauce," when it's really a human being. So they are shown that they get a special consolation prize for their loss, which they reveal is a steaming pot of stew, ironically. Everyone, just starts diving in, except Andre. Of course, he's still hurt over the loss of his partner, and he thinks that they're bribing him and he's not going to accept the bribery. And Venable, she tries to talk him down from that and, tell him that he was a threat and blah, 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 blah. The basic pulling the wool over your eyes spiel. So then Dinah asks where they've been keeping this fresh meat from. And she says, we have, special resources for special circumstances. And, that's when you should start to really question what's going on here. Kathy Bates says it is chicken. Evan Peters pulls out I thought upon first watch it was a tooth, but I think it was a bone fragment out of his mouth after taking a bite. And he's like, this is interesting. Along the same time, Andre pulls out a finger bone, which is obvious. That's what it is. So he loses his mind, and the barfing of starts with, I can't believe it just ate a human being. Everyone except for Grandma Evie, who says, I don't care what it is, it's full of fiber and I'm gonna eat it and I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Another comedic relief from her. So they go back to a cocktail hour, and Andreas still upset. Dinah is consoling him, and Grandma says, "Oh, come on. It was chicken," because Dinah said they wouldn't serve us stew because he was contaminated, right?
Yep.
Well,
He really wasn't. So maybe it was a double secret.
Yeah, and I do think that Grandma Evie knows that it was stew, because she says then it was wonderful white meat chicken. So, then we get a cut and a reference that it is now 18 months later. It is the same song. Everyone was getting so excited because all of a sudden, the song that had been playing for days and days stopped, and a new song came on. And forgive me, I didn't research and look at the songs, but apparently Mr. Gallant got, the feelings that they were fixing to be rescued from this song that came on. That's why I put an LOL where it says 18 months later, and they're all sitting there with the same song going. I put what the fuck is with Coco's hair. Did you probably ran out of styling products, I would assume. And then you see the kind of a wrap up, or a little compilation of what's been going on for the past 18 months. They're back to the cubes, no more special treats, so that means no one has been shot.
I think we lost connection.
Comedic relief, where she says this is an effective dieting technique. Coco complains. Mr. Gallant loses his shit here, and he tries to revolt. Throws his plate against the wall. He says, I'm sick of this shit. And Dinah, bless her heart, she tries to come in and calm him. And this is one of my favorite lines, and I'm probably going to put this on a shirt, is, if you start with your bumper sticker shit, I am going to shove this fork in your eye. Because he's like not on board with the, kumbaya, let's chill out stuff here. Right as that's happening, a buzzer goes off. Let's see. I want to say that before this happens, we have in there the montage. No, it's at the end, I guess. Is it the end where the Timothy mutant is describing the life in the 18 months where he and Emily limit themselves to one kiss per week so they don't mess up, but they obviously are having a relationship. They love each other. They can't be together in the way that they want to be together. So they are trying to contain themselves. So as Mr. Gallant is losing his shit, another buzzer goes off, and it's a red siren. Everyone kind of, starts to go berserk, and Miss Venable says it is a breach. So out goes Kathy Bates and that other random guard. I loved this imagery of a horse-drawn carriage pulling up. What I thought of, which when we see the horses, they're not zombie horses, which I was extremely disappointed about. But I had a thought.
Wheels on them.
Yeah, well, no, they had those canker pus things going on, which is sad. But I wanted like mutated, horses. I wanted some horror stuff there.
Like a hanging out of its side with a blood supply, that kind of shit.
Yeah, or something like in Game of Thrones with the White Walkers' horses. Something creepy where like half their face is nothing but bones. But anyways, beggars can't be choosers. Okay, we're getting what we're getting. Um, this figure comes off of the wagon. He walks up and he flips open his ID. And this is none other than the coveted Michael Langdon, who we know is the Rosemary's Baby, the Satan baby that was born in Murder House, the baby that was born to Vivian and Tate. Now, I did a screen freeze and a screenshot of his credentials. I found them very interesting. I found it interesting that the last three of his ID were 666.
Nice.
Yeah, and he has unlimited clearance, so I'm guessing that he's part of, well, and we know he's part of the co-op, but I'm guessing that he's like, the head honcho of this. So, yeah,
Well, this is where the ghost comes back in, because she had what to say about this whole thing in her big email. She said,
yes, tell us.
She says, I'm so glad he showed up in the first episode and we didn't have to wait until halfway through the season to meet him. So this is Vivian Harmon and Tate Langdon's demon baby all grown up. He's given me weird Beast as in Beauty and the Beast when he becomes human again vibes, which is not important. What is important that he's clearly running some shit. So many questions. Was he raised by Vivian and Dr. Harmon in the murder house? Because they end up dead too, right? Did Constance raise him next door? Is he really the Antichrist? Did he cause the apocalypse? How did he get involved with the cooperative? Is he already working with Miriam, Kathy Bates?
Okay.
Take care of the horses, which to her meant kill him. And he either knew she would know what he meant by take care of him with his demon brain, or he knew that she shot him as it happens.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that she had mentioned about Miriam that's freaky and scary. She fucking dragged those horses into the tree.
I mean, what is she, like, Superwoman?
Yeah, that even canker-filled radiation horses weigh a lot. You don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm thinking she's getting more than 1 cubes a day, okay? Because she's getting extra nutrients, okay?
Cuber.
I was a little impressed at her strengths there. And you're right. She's been with the co-op for a while. We know that because she said they've been paying her bills for a while. And I'm
in the military. So do you think that they're connected, or that she flipped? She flipped over. Did it start when Demon Boy was born? Theoretically.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, because I don't think that it's a throwaway that she mentions, being military kid and the killing being in her DNA. And obviously this is kind of a DNA heavy episode where they're focused on, getting this super, human breed or something going on. So, yeah, I think this has been in the works for years. I'm interested to see who actually starts it, because, and if I can recall correctly from the last episode of The Murder House, season 1, Constance does have the baby next door with her.
What I'm going to do with you, because the baby killed, and I can't remember who it was. He wasn't a baby anymore. He was like a toddler.
Yeah.
He was sitting in the rocking chair with blood on him, and he killed, I don't know, the nanny or something.
I think it was a nanny.
Yeah, and he was sitting there giggling like a little monster.
Yeah, he was so cute. So, yeah, that was the last of that season. So, he obviously ages super fast, because if you're keeping with a current timeline, which I don't know what their timeline is like in this, okay, but if he's already middle-aged, or, at least in his mid to late 30s or 40s, that was only 8 years ago, theoretically, when that season came out. So He ages super fast, so maybe that has something to do with him being obviously the devil or Satan, or some connection like that, some demon that he's got in him. So that was the first thing I thought of when I saw him. Are you this old? And then I had the recall back to where it was almost like he had just been born and then he was already a toddler killing people. So
yes, accelerated growth, perhaps.
Right.
That's you to get around it.
Right. Now, what I like here, and I was going to make a shirt tonight. I ran out of time. I like to make shirts with funny quotes on them. My shirt for tonight was the very first thought when Michael Langdon took off his mask. Is that Michael Langdon or is that the vampire Lestat? Because they look the exact same. I was like, this beautiful flowing coif that you have is so Interview with a Vampire. And that's all I had in my mind. So I had to rewind that a few times because obviously I giggled a lot over that. And so he reveals himself. One thing I do like is this is a new actor that is new as into the American Horror series or anthology, but he was Andrew Cunanan's lover. Ugh, I use that in quotes loosely, David, in the assassination of Gianni Versace. He did a great job in that role. And that was also on FX. So I'm assuming that that's how he got his foot in the door to be on this show. So I like him, and I'm excited about him being the devil baby. He's got some freaky like facial, his eyes are almost like amber see-through and it's red around his eyes. So I don't know if that's from being out in the contamination or if that's, just what his makeup is.
It's called Devil Eye, Mel.
Sorry. I need to do more research on devil eyes.
That's what I'm here for. Yeah, those kinds of facts.
Devil eyes to me were always like red. Or fire.
Reddish around the outside, but it's not just devil eyes. It's devil eyes, deviled eggs, deviled ham. There's a lot of things that can be deviled.
And I liked all those things. So, I'm fitting right in here with this. So, now I do like his demeanor towards Venable. She tries to come off as, I run this place. What are you doing here? We're doing fine without you here. I'm trying to figure out if they've met before, actually, because she introduces herself to him. But he asks for her to, is it Miriam? Is that Kathy Bates? Yeah, Miriam. He tells her, hey, it's Michael Langdon. I want to see Miss Venable. And she knows to let him in and do whatever. So it made me wonder if Venable had not met him yet, like in an official capacity or whatever. So she goes on the spiel about, I don't know why you're here. We're running our facility, very well. Our, our people are healthy and, doing so great. And he says, well, that's actually what brings me here because 3 more outposts were overrun. So now we're at 6 and 3 are not going to last through the year, which leaves us at 9. So in the beginning, of course, Outpost 3 was 1 of 10. So this is leaving Outpost 3 as the surviving outpost.
But then, so does that mean if they're getting overrun by people that are surviving and like tearing it down, you know what I mean? That's one thing. But if it's just, oh yeah, no, that's not going to last you. Well, then go help them, stupid. Like put some fucking more cubes in your stagecoach and get over there and help them.
I mean, well, and that's the thing that caught me off guard as well, because I was thinking, okay, so now you're going to visit this place, and I'm assuming it's because you aren't getting reports that they're doing bad here, but you didn't try to step in and help anybody else in these other outposts that are supposed to be just like this outpost here with genetically super fit humans that are able to survive this and then assumingly millionaires that have paid to get on this. So
Yep.
it makes me wonder again about the two teenage mutants that they bought in. So he says, actually, that's why I'm here. All of your people are doing very well. The outpost, leaving you the only outpost that's going to be survive or, left standing. He says, we have another facility that is impregnable, stocked with supplies and stocked with supplies that will last a decade. It's called the Sanctuary. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to keep a lot of notes here because I got another show that has a sanctuary in it. I got another, they have a lot of callbacks here. And I'm like, I'm going to have to I got to put notes out to my sanctuary.
But I don't think Sanctuary is going to be what we call it, because I think they're going to go to the Coven House.
Yes, that's exactly what I think. And I have some questions about what the Coven storyline is going to be here. Is it going to be them against the Coven witches as a battle against, saving possibly these mutant kids, or what's going to happen here? Because we're also going to have all of Murder House back.
Yeah, I think I don't know where. I honestly, other than obviously the Antichrist, I don't know how they're going to get Murder House into it. But I'm sort of convinced that if any place in American Horror Story world was going to be able to, the two places it would be left standing after the apocalypse would be the witch school and maybe the hotel.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, maybe the murder house, but I don't think the house the house did have a lot of shit in it. Okay, so I'm going to expand it to 3.
Okay.
It would be neat if the only 2 things in LA were the house and the hotel, and they actually showed that.
Exactly.
That would be a dope shot. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I think the witches would be able to put up some kind of witch shield or some shit like that. You know what I mean? And save themselves.
Well, and it's interesting because the witches are in Louisiana.
Right.
So, I'm just interested in how this is going to come about. I'm going to assume the Murder House people are all coming back into play because Vivian is this Michael's mom, and they're all spirits stuck in the house because all of them now are dead. So I don't know if they go back to the house.
By the way, the chat said that Sanctuary is bad. Did they not see Walking Dead?
Thank you. That's the Sanctuary that I was referring to. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to bring up The Walking Dead, but yeah, immediately I was like, "Don't go anywhere that's named the Sanctuary. Just don't do it." Yep. So this is where it gets interesting because she says, "Okay, well, you're going to take us all," and he said, "Actually, I'm not. I am going to survey and select the ones that go to the sanctuary. I'm going to evaluate them to see who is the most fit for survival. Those who make my cuts live. Those who don't end up like my horses. And R.I.P. Cankerpuss horses.
Yeah.
You were obviously pulled into the shrubbery and eaten by what I'm assuming is a creature from the credits, or this Cankerpuss breed of humans that are out there now.
Wandering around.
Yeah, because you can definitely hear some crunching and munching going on. And I was like, But it has to be something big that's eating a horse.
Miriam Muscles, that's who. She didn't care.
It could have been her, just ripping it from like limb to limb over there. So that's where we end the episode. I think it was a strong opening to the season. I have some things. Grandma Evie, she's set as a recurring or like a guest star in the series. So I don't know if she's going to be in every episode, but I kind of don't want the campy humor in almost every scene, because that just doesn't do a lot for me. I want more like thriller and mystery and horror, like gory things, and that's who I am.
With us coming off Castle Rock, that turned out to not really have much horror in it.
Yeah.
I really want it to be a horror story and not just, oh, that's vaguely unsettling. You know what I mean? Like, just have some scary shit going on. And if you're gonna start with the Antichrist ushering in the apocalypse, you've set the bar pretty high for yourself as far as what you're gonna do from a horror standpoint.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. When the Timothy Mutant was talking and summarizing up kind of what was going on in that 18 months, he did refer to it as the nuclear winter. So, you know, I don't know what happens after a nuclear bomb, as in, do you have a certain amount of time before you obviously you're going to have radiation, but before it's safe for you to come out and possibly go to another safe place or whatever. If there's different stages to it, like now there's nuclear winter, like what's next after that, I don't know. But I think I liked the first episode. I read some reviews. Some people didn't think it was a strong start to the season, but in American Horror Story fashion, they're giving you just enough, and they're character developing, and that's the kind of stuff that I like to start the season off with. Like, okay, now we know who the stronger ones in the group are, the emotional ones, the ones who are going to throw temper tantrums, and you can almost kind of start to figure out, well, who would they start, taking off the list of, people to take on with them. So, your thoughts on the episode? Because I just literally talked the whole time.
Well, that's your thing. You had to tell us what happened. Now, I didn't feel like there was a lot. The beginning was so cliched. They had to have known it was cliched, and they did it on purpose. I cannot imagine that they just got done watching 2012 and said, "Hey, I know what we'll do. Make a movie about traffic." And that was kind of a bother. I like how they put all the pieces in place so that we know what's going to happen. And they gave one little tease. Actually, in the chat, someone said that they want to see Evie against Constance. So that would be a good.
That would be great. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just going to say distracted one-liners at you.
Well, I know, right? The stew is fabulous.
And I think that there's definitely potential in the way they're setting it up. I feel a lot better about this season after the first episode than I did last year.
Yeah.
And that's going to be true basically about anything I compare to last year.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
With the exception of discovering the just delightful Sarah Yarkin, who was in Cult for 1 second, and that's the only thing other than a commercial she's ever been in, but her Instagram is really funny. So that was the one good thing that I took out of Cult. Plus Chastity Bono was pretty good. But for this,
yeah,
I like these bigger themes.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely if this was going to be, finally the season you wanted, we take the best parts from Freak Show and Roanoke, and then everybody would just be like, yeah, no,
exactly. I would have passed. I would have watched it, but I would have in my mind been like, this is going to be a strong pass for me, but I'm still going to watch it.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it maybe we should come up with a scale.
I was about to say, we know our friends at Fan Critical have Blueberry scale. So
yeah, I do like their idea of having no halves, but we can't do blueberries because it's a new
thing. It has to be unique to us.
So we're just gonna say we don't have to say what they are yet. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 objects because we haven't decided what. Oh, you know what? 3 out of 5 nutrient cubes.
Oh, okay, I love it. All right. So you give it a 3 out of 5 nutrient cubes. Okay. I am going to actually agree with you and probably go with 3 out of 5 because I agree with everything you said about the whole beginning being so super cliche. I think, and I don't mean to offense anyone in LA because I've never been there, but I think they were playing up on what the stereotypical, what the stereotype of people in LA are. And it just came off, cliche to me. And the only part that moved me, I guess, or spoke to me in the beginning was that broadcaster. That was pretty much it. That was a chilling broadcast, and it was something that I could, honestly believe, So, and if you have to say that within, the first 5 minutes before the credits roll, or your opening credits roll, that the best part was a newscaster. And yeah.
True.
But I hope, and I think that that's out of the way. They got that whole thing out of the way, and maybe from now on it's going to be, straight to the theme of what this season is going to be. I myself cannot wait for the witches. I read that they're all coming back. You will get Frances Conroy back. She will not be as Myra, but she will be as Myrtle Snow.
I like it. I'll take it.
Yep.
But she burned. Didn't she burn?
She burned at the stake. So I don't want to get all because obviously, I've been talking to you. I got timeline issues in my head right now. But this is why I'm wondering where in the timeline this is going to fit. Because another thing about Coven is that Queenie, Gabby Sidibe, I believe her name is, she was in hotel and she was murdered in the hotel. I don't know if you remember that. She checked in and she basically told them.
It was what's his name? Holmes that killed her. The Evan Peters character.
Yeah. Oh, J.P. Morgan, I believe, or something like that. Yeah, but H.H. Holmes basically is what we're going to call him. So that's 2. I think did they end up. I told you I have to refresh myself on Coven. About Emma Roberts. I think her name was Madison in that one.
Madison Montgomery, who was, I think she must be descended from the Montgomerys from the other. From
one.
Yeah.
The ones that made the. Well, and that's another thing. Okay, this actually brings me to a very valid thought here, because Hotel. It would have been nice if they tied in some of Hotel, because Hotel also had a callback to season 1 that the Countess was the mother of the baby that was crawling around in the basement of that house.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, anyway, so yeah, and then we know Montgomery is of the doctor and his wife, Montgomerys, that are stuck in the house. So
I have some questions from the Ghost, and it's just titled Bunker Life. And I don't think there's no answers for them, but they're funny. Are they really super cubes that can give you a full day of nutrients? I'm gonna say no. What the fuck kind of boys' school turned bunker is this? That's weird. So that's not really a question, I guess. Where is it located in the U.S.? That's actually kind of interesting to me. Why do they dress in purple 18th century garb? Is that just weird flair that Michael wanted to put into place? Or are the witches really in charge and it was their idea?
Oh, interesting.
Why only one song over and over again? What was the song? We'll have to go back and look. Yeah. By the time we put the post up, we should know the name of the song.
I will, because I'll turn the subtitles on this time and it will tell me what the song is.
How did the Greys get chosen? And then how does this bunker seem to compare to real bunkers that crazy people are building in real life? And actually, I watched that show Doomsday Preppers a bunch of times.
Yes.
And this place is super nice.
Yes, because fallout shelters are not. The bunkers that they're building are not like this.
The Doomsday Prepper people are just getting robbed by the, oh yeah, we'll make you a bunker that you'll never ever have to use. So here's what I did. I took a shipping container and then I put a fucking lawn chair in it. So give me $20,000 because I just buried it in your yard, you dummy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how that worked. And they had a bunch of like freeze dried fucking pieces, shit like that.
Yeah, like Salisbury steaks. Ugh.
Yeah, that's better than a cube.
Vienna sausages, which I would eat. But
well, I got a comfy bed here in this one. Yeah, but they got more than cubes over there. So maybe we should go to the other bunker.
Yes, true. That is interesting, though. I do wonder where this outpost is as well, because it was 2 weeks before the teenage mutants showed up there. So did they stay in those detaining cages or whatever you want to describe them as that long, or did it take a long time?
It will take a long time to get anywhere.
Well, yeah. So I'm wondering, like, I mean, it could be anywhere, which is interesting, and I'd like to know again. And I think you and I probably, touched on that with saying that the sanctuary might be the Coven House. So those are good questions. Really good questions. What else do we have? Go ahead.
I think we're gonna have to do the thing that we sort of did with the Castle Rock show, but maybe what we'll do is we'll put the list of unanswered questions in the post as we go so that people can refer back to it, and we'll cross them off if they get answered.
Okay, I like that a lot. Just a couple more things in case anyone hasn't, looked it up, which I'm sure we're all fans, we have, but let's see. Evan Peters will be playing the two roles this season, Mr. Gallant and Tate Langdon. Sarah Paulson, she's playing 3 roles this season. So Miss Venable, Cordelia Good from the Coven, and then Billie Dean Howard.
And that was Murder House, right?
And that was Murder House. She was the psychic in Murder House that Constance got off Craigslist. And then I cannot pronounce her name. She's a wonderful actress, but I just have a hard time. But the actress that played Zoe Benson, the Dr. Thaisa. I'm butchering that.
I can't say it.
Yeah. And then Zoe was her Coven character, and then Violet Harmon was her Murder House, and by far the saddest death that I thought of that season.
Found out when she found herself.
Oh my gosh. Oh, geez.
That's tough.
But Frances Conroy, yep, she's going to come back as Myrtle. And yeah, so I've got to learn more about where this apocalypse has happened in the timeline, because in other stories, I don't want to get into multiverses either for American Horror Story, but it could have been just a different universe with Hotel and Queenie being killed, or a very different time at some point with them burning Myrtle at the stake. So, but I'm excited to see her.
Billie Dean was in Hotel too, says Dame Meow in the chat.
I'm sorry, who was?
Billie Dean?
Oh, she was. Yes. She did she was doing a news story.
Yep.
Yeah. See, this is why I say, why didn't they plug in some Hotel stuff too? Maybe that's too much. Maybe that'd be too much to try to. If you got Sarah Paulson playing 7 characters, we might have to draw the line there. Yeah, but Hotel seems to be very also connected into these two as well. So
This website I just looked up, it's Thaisa Farmiga.
Thaisa. Okay. So
Thaisa Farmiga.
I wasn't that far off. So Thaisa. Okay. Um so but I think that this season is going to be interesting. It's got my attention for sure. After a couple of times watching it too, and noticing, some of the things that I put in my notes, um, I've got a lot of questions already, obviously, and I'm excited to what is going to have already transpired by the time we get to the mid-season. Yeah, because the mid-season is always, the half where shit starts getting real crazy. So, I'm, I want to see what this sanctuary is about. I want to know what hair products Michael Langdon uses, and he obviously got Vivian's beautiful hair. So, because poor little Tate wasn't working with much there. So.
Oh.
Well, he was little Kurt Cobain, so he just had a little shaggy do up there. So,
True.
So that's all the notes that I had for the show. I hope I haven't bored y'all to tears with that because I get detailed with my notes.
Nope. Good stuff. We're
so-
almost pulling up on 2 hours because I can't do a show that's not 2 hours long, apparently, no matter what. So that, to me, covers everything, and I am that halfway through thing that you just mentioned. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also worried about it because that's the and then part that I'm super worried about. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I just don't want it to be like, and then there's a sea fortress, and then there's a mermaid army, and that's the part that I just don't want. I just want to see the apocalypse big bad fight the fucking witches, just have a thing, and they do it by our little neighbor. She's the cutest thing in the world, and when she wants to scare somebody, she tells her mother that she's gonna boo them. So I want them to boo us.
Yeah, I do too. Well, some things that I have thought is, when are we going to see these canker pus creatures? Because I think that they may have a big part in, what's happening here. Because I don't think they would just show us something, snatching those horses and bones crunching for no reason, and have mentioned, these types of creatures outside more than once.
That could also be a convenient way for them to say everything is a bottle. Like, because if you're going to be going, why don't you just leave? Well, you can't because there's cankerpus monsters. You know what I mean?
That's true.
That could be why.
Yeah. I want the cankerpus monsters to look like the, if you want to call them walkers, zombies, whatever, from the Coven season, because those were my favorite little zombies that I've had in a show so far. I mean, obviously, when you're walking with your Walking Dead, that's what the show's about. But those were fun little zombies, I thought, that we had in that season. So, yeah. So I'm ready to. I really want to see the reunion of Michael Langdon with his grandmother and his mom and Tate. I'm excited. I'm equally excited, I think, for the Coven as for what they're going to incorporate the Murder House with, because, like I said, those are two favorite seasons, and I want to see as much of that as I can. So I don't want to lose sight of this separate season of Apocalypse, like in the story that they're telling there. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself because I'm like, oh gosh, I can't wait to see, the Harmons and, all of our favorites from that season. So.
Well, this is pretty great, and the fact that the chat was for our first show and nobody really knowing about it, I really appreciate everybody in the chat coming out to correct me when I say wrong stuff and make fun of me for not watching all these movies that I didn't realize I was supposed to watch.
It's okay. We're gonna get you. We're gonna get you knowledge in those movies, okay? Because that'll go far in your life for you. You can't yell out Tawanda but not know what it's from.
Yeah, that is true.
Um,
I can only relay the Tawanda message at this point.
That's right. You can't really feel it in your bones yet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know I can't see the chat, but I do want to thank everyone that has shown up in all of the questions and the feedback. They've been great. Yeah, just helping add to our theories and our, what ifs and our unanswered questions. So thank you so much. It's always nice to have people give in their input to, things that you missed as well, which is great. So.
Damn straight. So then I guess everybody make sure that you watch on Wednesday so that you can then hang out with us next Friday around, it's probably going to be about the same time because this works for me and we're figuring everything out. I'll make sure that Mel's can see the chat ahead of time. We might the busier it gets, we might have to get a third person to help us with the chat part because there's no way we're going to be able to keep on top of it, with just the two of us. But for now, you guys got in on the ground floor of the whole thing.
I know. Here's a round of applause for y'all.
And if you have, we haven't made an email address for it. If you have a message that you want to send right now, you can always get me on Twitter at Acadia, and Mel's, your Twitter is?
At MelsBells84.
And you can email superficialgallery@gmail.com because that's been the gallery address forever. And we'll make sure that we incorporate your feedback into the show. And I guess we'll see you next Friday night.
Yeah, and do email. I want to tell y'all that I moved up from being a super fan to actually, hosting with Acadia. And I didn't do the email thing. I bugged him on Twitter all the time. And then I finally got hip and I sent an email and that changed their life forever. So send your emails because we will go through them and we will read them, and we will appreciate any feedback. So
that's
right.
That's of us doing the show, because if you guys don't like it, then what are we going to do it for? We could have just talked to each other about it without having a show. So
That's true. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. We'll see y'all next week.